Yo, good morning from Las Vegas. The mustache here to stay. I was losing in poker. I left the mustache on. I'm winning at poker again. So, keeping the mustache. No question about the mustache. Let me know if it's going to stay. Okay, so I haven't been able to give you as many updates as I'd like because I can't really. It's a little bit political with some of the games I'm playing at the moment and what I can and can't do. So I've got to be a little bit careful. So I'm going to try and give you as much content as I can. Obviously, the stream games, that's easy for me. I can release all those. So I'm going to give you a hand review on some of these stream games. So let's take a look at one of the hands I play at the lodge.
And then I'll release it all like once I'm done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ironically, what I'm talking about here, if you heard me, is I say I'll release it all once I'm done. Is what I'm basically saying is I'm going to win the challenge, so I don't give a fuck about the challenge anymore, and then I'm going to release all the footage that I wasn't releasing during the challenge because releasing it during the challenge might limit my ability to play some games. Because if I'm winning a lot of money in those games, and they're like, oh, what the fuck, don't play this guy anymore. So just bear with me with that.
Well, I can't get in private games things like 4,000. Raise to 4,000.
4,000 is the raise.
All right, so we have an open with Doug under the gun. I believe we are eight-handed, ace-10 suited, pretty standard. I'm in the straddle for 400, and I make a 3-bet to 4,000. Now, looking at big blind 3-betting from the straddle range is kind of deep. I think I could make this like at least 5,000, but 4,000 was my standard sizing at the time before looking into a little bit more. And Doug makes the pretty easy call.
Raise with big slick suited from Ginge.
What about your 4,000?
Quick call from Doug with ace 10 suited.
I think 10 is pretty dark.
Ooh, 2 spades.
Okay, so we get the Jack 7-7 2-spade flop. I have ace king of clubs. You can definitely mix here between checking and betting. Out of position deep, we definitely can lean towards checking a bit more. That being said, our good hands here are still going to be reasonably comfortable. Queens plus, ace jack, etc. are still pretty happy to bet. We are going to get called by some worse hands, such as ace 10 of spades. But I like betting a third. Just makes the hand a bit cleaner, makes it easier to play. But that being said, I don't hate a check.
Doug slightly ahead here.
King Kai sending me text messages of a blowout tire. I think the year says 2018 though.
Yeah.
Those look like old tires.
He just punctured a hole in his own tire.
No excuses, Kai. Stream like a champion. You know the rules here.
All right, so Doug makes the call. I definitely think he was tanking there about a raise. I think a raise would be quite interesting, actually. He probably has way more 7x than me, depending if I'm 3-betting at the straddle correctly. We'll probably have equal amounts of pocket jacks here. Maybe he has slightly more. Maybe I don't 3-bet them always. But regardless, I think call and raise are both fine, and he does call.
Calls 27. Looking for a spade is Doug. We're at 10.
All right, so Jack of Hearts comes on the turn. Now what's really important here is, well, about to be even more important, are my suits. So I have ace king of clubs. In particular, I block both the king jack of clubs and the ace jack of clubs, which is really important because you shouldn't really be calling that many offsuit hands. So blocking the suited ones is going to be really powerful here. I also happen to block ace 7 suited in clubs as well, in case he does have that preflop. And he may occasionally have that preflop, and he may, well, because he's deep in position. And he also maybe has the king 7 suited very occasionally. So has a little bit of benefit having these suits over other suits, I think. But that being said, we could be ahead here. We're still ahead of hands like 10-9, 10-8, any kind of flush draw. And also the jack is a really bad card for a range. The jack probably hits him way harder than it hits us. So I think we want to do a lot of range checking here, and then basically play our hands as check call, check raise.
Now it's chop. Jacks and 7s, both players with the ace.
Doug has a more interesting decision than me, where he wants to bet, and if he does bet, what sizing, and if he does, or whether to check. I personally am pretty close here, and it's going to depend a little bit on my stack size. For example, if the jack didn't pair the board here, the turn was another card that was better for him, like the 8 or the 9. I think I'm very pro betting here because you can quite happily call a raise. That's kind of my rule of thumb here. If I bet and I can still call a raise, I will more likely bet. And that's going to change based on stack size. So for example, if you bet 8,000 here and I've got 40,000 and I just get to rip over your bet, then you don't get to call the raise. So you have to follow all your equity. So betting will be less attractive if I'm more likely to do that. But when we're very deep and we're over 55k deep here, then betting becomes more reasonable because I'm not going to jam as much. And if I do just raise, we can call. That being said, on this particular board, it's still kind of tough to call a raise because if I am raising, you've got to think that most people raising here are probably relatively polarized. And so you're drawing to your flush, you could be drawing dead. So that probably gets me back into the check in normal situations. But in this particular situation, I think that betting is pretty good, because if I am going to see bet too much on the flop, which I probably am if I've got hands like ace-king, folding hands like ace-king now, ace-queen, king-queen that might bluff the river, all that kind of stuff can also suit you as well. So that being said, I don't mind check or bet here. As Doug says, you can do anything you want. So let's see what he does.
And one player get the other off of it here. Doug free rolling though with the spades.
Well, there's a king that could still come.
It's not coming. King of spades would be spicy.
Yes.
All right, so Doug goes for the 6,500 bet here, and which is about half pot. Now, when you bet this pot in 100 big blinds effective, you probably usually choose a 1/3 sizing, just because if you do have the jack, you pretty much have your opponent drawing dead. So you kind of want to call as wide as you can, basically drawing dead, and then all your bluffs get to go very large on the river and leave him with a much wider range that he's more likely to fold when you are bluffing. So that being said, when you're deeper, you want to start sizing up. So the half pot sizing is basically equivalent to 1/3 when we're less deep. So Doug's basically implying he's going to bet his entire range here, which is also fine because it hits him super hard. Now I have a decision. If I think he's betting his entire range, then actually I should start mixing. Well, not mixing. I can now start check raising hands like kings, queens, aces for value. Because if he's betting his entire range, we're actually doing really well. And we want to protect the hand with hands like queens, kings, and aces. And like I said, if I'm checking my range on this turn, I still have my jack x2, which is now where my suits come into play if I do want to start bluffing here. So if I do want to start bluffing here, I probably do want to have hands that are blocking the jack x that you can continue with. So the ace king suited actually works really, really well here as a check raise bluff, because if he does find the hero call without a jack, he's going to have hands like flush draws. He's going to have hands like maybe some kind of hero with queens, tens, nines, which we have equity against, plus we block the jack x, plus we're ahead, well, sort of ahead against ace x flush draws. So this hand works out pretty well as a bet. I ran this in the sim. You do check raise bluff this one sometimes. So I quite like this one, especially with these suits. I do decide to check raise.
Don't make the call. Or he's going to reach in for raisin chips. Oh,
Wow, that's interesting. Those got to play.
Those got to play.
Yeah. Interesting raise here from Ginge. Going to represent.
It's actually an interesting spot here for Doug. I think that he's like, he definitely knows that he could be drawing dead here. I definitely am going to check raise some jacks. I'm not always going to trap them. And I'm also definitely going to be check raising some aces and kings based on his sizing. And he knows that. We spoke about the hand afterwards. But given that I can check raise some pocket kings, I think ace 10 suited probably does find its way into call here, because it could get there. And if I do ever check raise, not just can it get there versus kings or aces, it can also bluff me off them on certain rivers. So let's take a look what happens.
Let's see if Doug believes him or not. Really irrelevant if Doug believes him. Drawing to the flush, no good. And Doug wastes no time, quickly makes the call here. In position on Ginge.
The river's a queen of diamonds, and this is literally the perfect river for me to go all in. Not only do I block ace jack of clubs, king jack of clubs, and now queen jack of diamonds is now blocked by the board. So the only combos of jack x that he can have are going to be like what? Like king jack. I can't even think of one off the top of my head right now. So like what jack's missing? Jack of clubs, which we block. So queen jack of clubs, maybe. Maybe jack 10 of clubs. But what I'm saying is the board is blocked as hard as it could be with my hand for all the jack x suited that he can have. So my hand is a clear jam. But it didn't do it. I got scared. The pot got really big. I did want to punt off on the live stream. I got nervous. And I was like, fuck, like, what does he check rate? At the time, I kind of got a bit brain fog. I was like, I knew what I was doing on the turn. And then on the turn, I discounted heavily at the time some of his flush draws that he could have here. I was worried a lot about like 7-6 suited. But that being said, he may fold 7-6 suited on the river. So I didn't even think that he would fold a 7, to be fair. But man, looking back, maybe he would have. So I run this hand through the solver. This hand is a clear jam on the river. I didn't have any money left in Texas at the time. So I was like, man, if I jam here and I lose, I'm out of the game. So that shouldn't go through your head, but it did go through my head, I'll be honest there. And I decided that I looked at the board. I could see how heavy I'm blocking this board with the jack x. I know I've got the best combo. But in my head, I trick myself and I go, okay, well, maybe I can check and beat some of his flush draws and see what happens. Because I'm still thinking if he's got the ace 6 flush draw, he's going to have like 8-9 suited, 10-9 suited. It's the same, basically the same hand on the turn, which I am ahead of. So I decided to check, which I drastically regret. I definitely think it should be a jam. Mistake by me.
Both players have whipped here, but I don't think we're going to see a chop. Somebody's going to get after it. Will Ginge pull the trigger? If he tells a story there on the turn, he's repping the jack. Needs to pull the trigger. Needs
Pull
to
the
be
trigger.
rather large here. Could be for all of it. No, pulls, shuts down. Doug has plenty of showdown value with his ace. Don't see him betting here, so looks like we will indeed head for that chop. Doug's in the streets, but he rips
All
it.
in.
Doug
So when Doug jams here, my suits are still in play. I'm still thinking, well, I block all these Jack X, and I block. Is my hand a call here? Because for the same logic that it would have been a jam, with the way the suits interact with the board, is this a call? Is Doug going to jam a 7 here? I mean, I think he should have to jam a 7 here, to be honest. But is he now going to jam all his bluffs? Well, clearly he did. So would he have jammed 8-9 of spades, 10-9 of spades? This is what I'm thinking about.
Well played, Doug. Ginge will be folding. You're not taking a check call for your entire stack. Not buying what Ginge was selling.
No, this is a similar
It's not
situation
No,
as yesterday.
it's not happening. It's not happening twice in 24 hours. It's not happening. This is a great play, though, by Doug. An excellent bet from Doug. All the haters in the chat for Doug. Take a back seat. He's locked in today. Ginge, all the way from Thailand here, playing at the lodge. It could be you, folks, watching at home. Hit me up, Skull Mike Poker, table 11.
Under the lights, and don't be too surprised if he doesn't make this call.
Not calling, Rick.
Did it yesterday.
Not doing it today. In the tank. Prove me wrong, Ginge. Prove me wrong. Sick to his stomach. $40,000 hero call? Not today. Not today. And it would have been excellent to see if Ginge pulls the trigger, continues telling the story that he told on the turn. I don't see Doug calling there.
Man, I'm swearing with this with myself now, and I know what I did.
But got a little cold feet. Might need to send 2 hot dogs to those cowboy boots for Ginge, just to heat him up a little bit. Excellent camera work here from the maestro, Matt Sweeney. And this is what it looks like to be in the summertime blender.
I really am going through the motions here. I'm just like, man, I blocked this Jack so hard. The board blocked it so hard. There's a few draws he can have. Is he going to jam them? And I'm very worried about him jamming the 7.
Reaching for chips. Touching the hat. Touching the glasses. Rubbing his shoulder.
You're looking for live tails and Ginge. Turns out touching the hat, rubbing the shoulder, and touching the glasses are all signs that I really want to fucking call.
Stomach is starting to turn. I don't know if Ginge has another bullet.
Commentator's right there. I do not have another bullet, and as much as that shouldn't be a factor. Okay, it should not be a factor. You should always play with infinite money, obviously. But let's say that I'm making a call here, which is maybe close to 0 EV. Yet being in the game is worth some level of EV. So if it's close, / possibly losing, / slightly winning, is that a factor? Honestly, yes it is. And unfortunately, that was a factor for me on the day. Well, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what Doug has here. Obviously, we can see the card, so unfortunately, based on what I do. But let's see what I actually do.
So that might be in the back of his mind if he's called and he's wrong.
I do let it go. What do you guys think about that? What do you think of the check raise on the turn? I think my opinion is I should have jammed the river. I got scared. I let the bullet get to me. And, well, just flame me in the comments, boys.
Nice play from Doug. I thought Ginge might have it in him to make a call. He did the same thing yesterday.
Yesterday was for what, like 18,000 hero call? This was for twice that amount?
Oh, come on. Like, the size of it matters, boys. So that was one of my favorite hands I played against Doug. I wish I'd have played that slightly better. Let me know what you think of the hands. And if you want to see more, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.